And we're live. Good evening, whiskey brothers and whiskey sisters, and welcome to episode 8 of the Canadian Whisky Journey's Whiskey Review. I'm Dolph. I'll be your host tonight, and I'm joined by Blair, Phillips, and Davin, Kergommeaux, the co-authors of this book right here, the definitive guide to Canadian distilleries, the portable expert to over 200 distilleries, and the spirits they make. We're continuing our Canadian Whisky Journey with a review of this bottle right here. And it's the Canadian Whisky Awards Whiskey of the Year. It's the Canadian Club 43-year-old Chronicles called the Speakeasy. And Blair, I'm going to put this over to you, and I'm going to ask you, why do they call it the Speakeasy, please, kind sir?
Well, they've been kind of following a storyline since the 41-year-old whiskey came out. The first one was the Water of Windsor, which was a nickname for a Canadian club back in the day. And it's also the river that separates Detroit and Windsor. Then when the 42-year-old was released, they had the Dockman. It was a tribute to the people that loaded up the boats and worked at the distillery. And now we're continuing the adventure to the Speakeasy. So back during Prohibition in the States, they would, you'd show up with your boat to get your shipment, and you'd have your paperwork. And it was very easy to, well, not easy, but it was relatively easy to forge the paperwork so that you could take your shipment, leave the docks, cut across to Detroit, dump your shipment, and then continue on your way. And that whiskey would wind up in the Detroit speakeasies, so to speak.
All right. But
the cool thing is that it comes in this big, heavy bottle that could be a murder weapon in the game of Clue, right?
Yes.
And the real story, in my opinion, is what's inside the bottle. So I'll throw that to you.
Get to that. Davin, I'm going to ask you a question, please, kind sir. So in CanadianDistilleries.com, so that's the site right there. And here's the article. Let's get rid of that. There's the article. And in the article, you state in the barrels, these barrels of filled in 1977 with corn spirit, that years went by, and every now and then the barrels were drained and their contents used to top up the other barrels. And Davin, can you tell us why they did this? And I'm guessing there's just because of the wood influence, maybe, but is there some other reason why they're topping up the other barrels?
Well, I think the more surface area you have exposed to air, the faster the evaporation. So they try to keep the barrels fairly full so that it's just a smaller surface area. So
okay. They want to preserve that 40-year-old, 41, 42, 43-year-old. Do either of you gentlemen know what they're calling next year's? The 44-year-old? Nope.
Not yet.
And if you know, you're not telling me. That's all right. That's good. We're fine. Gentlemen, while you're let's taste this and let's figure out the nose, because I find the nose on this will be a little bit complex. But I'll throw in a little bit of information while you're smelling the first little bits. 750 mils, 45%, about $270 here in Alberta, where we don't pay PST, but where you are, about 300, 310, 320 when you're paying PST. Available throughout Canada. Will this be made available into the States and other places?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. And I'm asking that because you said, well, it won the Connoisseur Whiskey of the Year domestic market. So I knew it was in the domestic market initially. I didn't know if they'd expand at any point. This one's the third in the series. It also won Best Blended Whiskey and Blender of the Year for the CC Blending Team. Davin, I thought this was a Dr. Don one as well. Is he part of the blending team?
Not at all. No.
Nope.
They have a separate team. This is the best-selling whiskey made in Hiram Walker Distillery. I mean, by a mile.
Okay.
But it's Beam Suntory whiskey, and they have their own team who do the blending.
All right. Just there. So,
yeah.
All right, gentlemen. And the initial couple breaths, it's like a traditional CC for me, because I do get vanilla, I do get the caramel, and I do get the spice. But this been open for 45 minutes now, and I'll tell you what I think in a couple minutes after I get your opinions, what developed for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you guys get in those?
Well, I've got that classic Canadian Club prune juice. I get it on every Canadian Club. It's really kind of the house style.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That dark fruit note, and I just find that the oak is just layered into this blend perfectly. I'd almost say flawlessly. It's
yeah, layered is exactly the right word.
Yeah, it's just
it's like a stack of wood, isn't it?
Exactly.
What do you mean by dark fruits? Tell me which ones you're thinking of.
It's the like your dark plums and that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's just a big hodgepodge of like orchard fruits, in my opinion.
I gave this to my wife last night, and prunes, Davin, was the first thing she came up with. So this was blind for her, and it was prunes that came out.
Mm-hmm.
But this was after it'd been open still half hour, an hour while I was smelling. But one of the scents that I'm just starting to get now that I did at the end last night, might have been an hour and a half into it. And I don't know if you guys have ever had this, but dehydrated or flash frozen strawberries. I'm just getting kind of a hint of that at the back end of the nose. So you're smelling, and then as you're about to exhale, that's what I'm getting. So it's a sweet field berry kind of thing at the very end. But that's after it's open for a long time.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
So
I'm not getting
nothing like that. Okay. No, I'm still good. And this has 11-year-old rye in it as well. What kind of influence is the 11-year-old adding to this? Is it just the spice that I'm getting off of that? Anything else?
Maybe a bit of spice and brightens it up a little bit. It's pretty common in Canada to add young rye to a whiskey, just as part of that 9.09%, so it doesn't affect the age statement, but it just pulls a few notes out.
Really
I don't
wakes
get
it
a
up.
lot of. Pardon me?
Sorry, Blair?
Oh, it really wakes it up. Like it livens up the whiskey.
What did they put in the 41-year-old? Was there brandy as well in the 41?
Yeah, rye.
Or cognac, maybe.
Or cognac,
I think, yeah. I can't remember. I think last year's, the 42, was some older rye and some younger rye as well.
No, that's lovely. All right, so on the palate, see what we got. And that's creamy. I do love that. It is creamy. Great mouthfeel.
It's a beautiful whiskey, yeah.
For me, I say powdered sugar. I'm trying to go from caramel to butterscotch to honey, but it's kind of a powder sugar flavor for me somehow. Like an icing sugar is what I mean. Not even brown.
Icing sugar, like fructose. Okay, I'm getting some real honey. I guess honey is made same sugar as icing sugar, fructose, is it?
I need some honeybee people to tell me that. I've got a good friend that does that, so he'll be able to tell me, but it'll be after this, so it's a little bit too late. But that's okay.
Well, I heard the bees were active today at the hives at Wayward Distillery on Vancouver Island. So there's some honeybee people who are very excited today. But I really do get honey notes in this. It's like there's really just a tad of buckwheat honey. It's just a little nuttier and a little earthier.
Buckwheat honey. Okay. Yep.
I love that stuff, by the way.
The honey, the buckwheat honey.
Yeah.
And we're quite a ways away from bees here in Edmonton. I think. I'm not sure what it's like over there for you. It's getting a little bit warmer, but the bees they're smart and they just stay away. Stay asleep.
Well, the last time I was in Edmonton, the mosquitoes were as big as bees. So,
it's all right. We make them big here. Dried fruit. I'm getting raisins now on the palate.
Okay. Like those dark raisins, black raisins or black currants or something like that.
Yeah. A little bit drier ones, not the big sultanas, but the kind of drier ones. And this happened last week. Blair, it's a little bit winey. I get a little bit of a winey. You said wine gums last week.
Yeah.
And that kind of relates to what I'm getting now. A little bit sour, not a bad sour, but it's something there. So add that to the raisins, a little bit winey. I don't know if anyone gets like that.
You're definitely being hit in all directions. Like there's every flavor under the rainbow in this thing.
But I don't get a lot of really identifiable spices, and the pepper is quite soft in this. So I think those barrels were really quite well used before they put the whiskey in it. That's very often the case with old whiskey, that it's matured in barrels that have been used a few times before, so you don't get quite so much activity. It leaves more opportunity for oxidation and for all those reactions that take place inside the spirit, rather than just sucking flavor out of the wood. And it I think contributes to the elegance. And I think, you mentioned this was the winner of the Canadian Whisky Awards this year. And I think in the awards overall, we saw quite a drift in palate towards these more elegant whiskeys. And, the big bold whiskeys did very well, but just a tiny little bit ahead of them were the things like the Pendleton Director's Reserve and Pendleton 1910 and Alberta Premium Cask Strength and things like that. And it's the same. This has a real elegance to it, but it's more so than those other whiskeys, because this is it's been in there so long that everything is so tightly integrated. It's just I know it's a whiskey. I mean, you'd be comfortable drinking it in a gentleman's club, but you'd be just as comfortable, and the price will allow you to drink this at home with your friends, and who knows, maybe even put a splash of tonic or soda or something in it.
I don't know about that, but drinking at home with friends is where I'm doing it most. Now, after I've had it on the palate, going back to the nose, I'm getting like lilac and lavender. I'm getting some type of floral note on the nose now.
Those are real rye notes, yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah, I like going back. And the finish, let's talk about the finish for a little bit, because it's long and it does change. And I think about 3 times it kind of changes for me.
Yeah, I find it starts off sweet, goes through a spicy phase, and then it just dries off really nicely.
Yeah, it dries off like it's got a lot of wood in there, but the wood is restrained. But
a little bit of that feel, the drying notes on the back of the tongue for the wood is what I get at the end. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's fruity for me on the finish. I was looking for that. Maybe the sweet and then kind of a fruity sweet before you hit the spice and then the dryness. Like I said, it does develop. And like last night when I did try this over the hour and a half, I found myself changing my notes a lot. Like I'd add, and then my notes were too long and I had to try to, but I think I have to think of it over time. As you open it, what you're getting after a half an hour, and after it's really there for a long time. So after an hour, if it's still around in your glass, it does change again and again, which is a sign of a good whiskey for me. It makes me happy.
Me too. It does. It really benefits from half an hour anyway in the glass.
Yeah. So
my advice is pour 2 drams, 1 to drink now and 1 to drink in half an hour.
Done. Well, or a really big dram, and you just take it for 2 or 3 hours, and then you're okay. That's all right. We're good. Blair, last comments before we sign off, buddy.
Yeah, I think if you buy a bottle and you don't like it, so on your way to get a tongue transplant, drop off at the post office and send us your bottle.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll split it up evenly. Davin, last comments we sign off?
This Canadian club, in its various 40 iterations over 40, has always done extremely well in the Canadian Whisky Awards. It was not a surprise to me that it won the awards this year. It's just a wonderful whiskey. A truly wonderful whiskey.
All right. Thank you very much. 3 thumbs up, 3 drams up for us. And we're just going to sign off. Say thank you very much, one and all. And we will see you next Tuesday as we do Lot 40 Dark Oak. Hopefully we're ready for that. Davin says he thinks this is going to be the next big hitter of 2021. He thinks it's going viral. So we got to try that next week.
Yeah.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers. Take care.